The tailwinds in the United States politically are favorable for Bitcoin and only getting better. Donald Trump just officially announced to be speaking at the Bitcoin conference in Nashville in 2 weeks. I can tell you that Kennedy will also likely be involved, and I can tell you that Joe Biden definitely won't be there. But I think it's clear that in the United States, things are getting better for Bitcoin and crypto. Could the political environment, which was so bad for our industry, actually be the catalyst for the next bull run? I'm going to discuss this and a lot more with Tom Dunleavy. Let's go.
Let's go.
What is up, everybody? I'm Scott Melker, also known as the Wolf of Wall Streets. Before we get started, please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. Going to jump into it right now with Tom. Good morning. Good morning. GM. How are you?
Good. That intro will never fail to get me hyped. It's
got, you know, that
gets the people going.
I do it for the guests because I know that the people who hear it every day hate it at this point, but you guys who hear it like once every couple of weeks, it's better. So listen, let's start here. You can see my shining face there. Actually, we reported this. We knew, and it was on embargo, myself and Mario. So we recorded a video for the street announcing that Trump was going to be speaking at the Bitcoin conference and what it meant. And we waited, obviously, until Bitcoin Magazine, who hosts the conference, got the chance to share it first. But it's happening. There was a lot of speculation a few weeks ago. I think Nashville now is going to be the shit show of all shit shows, obviously, because the Bitcoin conference may become a Trump rally. But what do you think? I mean, this is crazy. This is wild.
Do you know the format of how is it just going to be like a 30-minute talk and he's out, or is it like meet and greet, doing side events?
So I think the announcement officially, there was conjecture it would be a fireside with David Bailey from the Bitcoin conference, but I think he's going to keynote 20, 30 minutes, something like that. That's what I'm hearing. I cannot confirm that. And then the conjecture I heard before the official announcement, he would only show up if there was a fundraiser and there was a base fee guarantee, which is why, but this is nothing unique to Trump. It's not a negative for anyone who's listening. That's how politics work. Politicians come to events, they speak, and then they do some sort of fundraiser on the side. And it's like, we need to guarantee 500 grand or whatever for me to show up. So I'm imagining for him, it's in the millions.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I mean, it just shows how much influence we have in politics now as industry, right? We have Fair Shake, which I think is the third largest PAC after Biden and Trump's PACs. Then you have the Sentinel PAC that the multi-coin guys just launched, or Sentinel Alliance, whatever it is, but incentivizing crypto voter support. So, I mean, it's a real issue now that people are taking seriously. And if you look at prediction markets, like we all have, like, Trump is favored to win the presidency. Republicans are favored to win the Senate. So, just seeing them actually active in the space and at these big events is great. Now, if this is the best event to represent the industry, I'm not sure. I've never been to one of the Bitcoin events. I know they're very kind of retail focused, a little bit crazy. So, hopefully people are.
It is. And there's the ironic Bitcoin only thing. I don't know. You've never been to the Bitcoin conference. That's unbelievable. But you're not allowed to mention any other token or chain on stage, period. Like, you cannot say the word Ethereum on stage at the Bitcoin conference, or you will never be invited back. But you can go out on the lobby floor and there's 7,000 NFT projects advertising. So it's this weird sort of they'll take the money. They're just not going to put you on stage and endorse it. But so we all know where Trump stands. He's going to be there. I think it's taken the shine off RFK, for better or for worse, right? Nobody is even the people who are advising RFK on crypto policy have seemingly switched to the Trump camp. But this is sort of putting a lot of pressure on the Biden administration, whether it's going to be the Biden running or not. The Chamber of Progress saying basically, Biden, get your head out of your ass and make a statement on crypto that's favorable, and you might get some of these votes back. I have my doubt that's going to happen. But then, of course, we have this that's been in the national news. Ro Khanna, the Democratic congressman from California, I believe from Silicon Valley, he's doing a roundtable with execs from across the industry. I know, I think Mark Cuban's going to be there, Scaramucci, a lot of these guys, to basically advise the White House on how to go forward. So the Democrats are trying to react. I can say Ro Khanna, I interviewed him for the podcast 2 years ago, I think, and he was trying to put this together 2 years ago. So this is not a politics thing for him. He'd
I
been
think that,
trying to do it, but now the White House is really interested.
yeah, I think that was yesterday actually, right? Because Selkis was
Did they do it?
outside.
They may
Yeah, I
have.
think they did it
Yeah.
yesterday,
Yeah.
and Cuban showed up at like Sam Bankman-Fried in like sneaks and a t-shirt,
That's
and
right.
actually said, from what I
Oh, yes.
understand,
You're
that
right. It was yesterday. See,
directly
it shows
that they should. He said, you should fire Gary Gensler to Biden's advisor, who I guess was there for about an hour or so, and he said, "Quote me on that." So, at least he has our back there. But yeah, apparently, they're at least trying. So I guess they have to at this point because they're seeing how much headway the Republicans are making. I think there's going to be a piece coming out from one of the insiders who was there about the detail. We haven't seen it yet, but it was yesterday.
Yeah, you were right. It was yesterday. Shows how on top of things I was here. But it seems like we had the biggest and best of the industry sort of represented there. Even some who were pretty aggressively supporting Trump. I think that we see the industry wisely is they're going to play both sides, right? I mean, whoever wins, we want a seat at the table. So they're going to go advise, I think, generally to both for most people. Obviously, your old boss Selkis is not playing both sides.
He's definitely not. That's for sure. We need some aggressive people out there advocating for us, and he's been at the forefront of it. So it's definitely good. We need to move the Overton window in the right direction, and he's definitely helping there.
But so it's interesting though that price has not moved, right? I mean, I think we can go now into the cycle and talk about the market a bit, but like a year ago, 2, 3, any time in that past, if you had presidential candidates making Bitcoin part of their political platform, you'd think that we'd go up like 70% in a day. And we're just doing nothing here market-wise, right?
Yeah, so it's really been so broadly in risk assets. You have very thin liquidity in the summer. You can look at the order book depth. You can look at the exchange volumes, which actually we still have not even come close to the exchange volumes we reached in 2021. Things that may have not moved the markets when there's more liquidity move the markets very precipitously in these thin liquidity environments. So everyone's heard about the German government selling. They're basically just market selling Bitcoin on TWAP orders. They're sending, a few hundred Bitcoin a day to exchanges and liquidating that. Now, if they continue at the current pace, they're going to be done essentially by the end of next week. So that's going to be a seller out of the market. You obviously, at the margins, have some of the Mt. Gox coins, which will continue to be sold. Then you have the U.S. government that's done a bunch of sales as well. So it's basically just a bunch of sell pressure into a thin market. Now, if we turn to the back half of the year as kind of this pressure subsides, we have all the things that you talked about, right? So political tailwinds, which are really important. FTX, sales, which we talked about on Crypto Town Hall the other day. These are, return of capital for people who had assets on FTX in cash directly to their accounts,
not
in the rain, not in
cash.
coins.
People should be clear on that because some of the other ones, like Voyager, I got tokens back, right, which was great because it went up. It wasn't great that it's like 5% of the value, but people who bought cash and want crypto back are going to have to buy.
Exactly. So, and they're going to get it back at a much lower level. So they'd probably prefer the tokens, but unfortunately it's not how bankruptcy works in the US. So that's 12 to 14, $15 billion, depending on, the liquidation process. Now, what percentage of that repurchases into crypto, I think remains to be seen. I think it's a pretty safe bet, at least half does, probably more, the people who, a lot of these claims were sold over time. And the people who bought those, I think are probably longer term holders. But even so, my estimate is probably only 10% of the claims in aggregate were sold. So even if they were sold to TradFi, distressed debt funds or something, like, doesn't really matter. Like, there's a lot of buy pressure that's going to come just from that event. Back half of the year, a lot of other positive catalysts as well. So we have the global liquidity picture ticking up. So that's not only interest rate cuts. Citi is projected 8 interest rate cuts over the next 12 months. I think market projects 2 by the end of the year. Great. You have the Fed that took in all these tax receipts. It's going to be using that to stimulate the economy into the back half of the year, winding down that TGA you hear so much about. You also have seasonality trends with the election cycle. So if you look at 4-year cycles for elections, so year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. Year 4, you see a 10% increase in government spending. over the last 100 years. So, it's not just a rumor that, people want to spend around elections or politicians want to spend around elections. It's actually borne out in the data as well. So a lot of positive catalysts into the back half of the year as we're seeing a reduction in that sell pressure from all of these overhangs. And in aggregate, all of those overhangs in terms of sell pressure. So US government, German government, Mt. Gox is about 22 billion. You can't assume all that's going to be sold, but say half of it's sold.
I think most of that won't be sold, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think most of those people understand the cycle and think the same thing we do, is that they're going to get their coins back and they're going to go up parabolically at the end of 24 and through 25. Then they'll sell them.
Exactly.
So listen, where we at in the market, we obviously had sort of that drop on Bitcoin below 55-ish. Now we're back up at 58,643. I personally think we could have likely bottomed based on technicals, at least for now. This is an indicator crypto speculation index slide suggests Bitcoin bull market reset. This indicator is now below 10%. Every time it's done that, it's been the spark of sort of the next bull run in the next few months, which aligns with where we're at right now. And then, of course, Bitcoin waits for guidance from U.S. inflation data. Bond market, no, it doesn't. That's ridiculous. We're not anymore.
We had the inflation print this morning, which came in very, lower than expectations. So inflation's moving down, and you actually saw Bitcoin and Ethereum spike, and that has been, as you mentioned, decorrelated in the past. But at least as of this morning, things are starting to move in that direction again.
Move. Yeah.
Now, if we look at other indicators, so MVRV, which I think folks on the show are pretty familiar with, very popular ratio of the realized value of Bitcoin to the market cap. So are people sort of in profit or underwater? That ratio, when it's around 1, has been a clear market buy signal in the past. I think you have the chart, Scott, if you want to just pop that up quick.
Yeah, sure. If you could share your screen. So you guys do this live. Should I play the intro music for y'all, you guys, while we're waiting? I know you love it.
Did that pop up?
We had like 5 people be like, yeah, just as if you zoom in on that slide. Go ahead.
Yeah. Cool.
So guys, we do this. It's real. It's real life. There you go.
So this is MVRV ratio here, and you can see this is Bitcoin price in the top, and when it spikes above 6, 7, it's a clear sell signal. When it gets down here, this is clear buy. So you can see below here spike, below here spike in Bitcoin price, below here spike in Bitcoin price. You get the picture. So we're nearing that right now. This is actually at about 1.5 today. And it's going to continue, I think, down a bit as we see a choppy summer, and it's been a clear accumulation zone for a number of years, and probably the most reliable indicator I've seen, besides like the rainbow chart or stock to flow rate. Just kidding, but those are. Yeah. So this is a pretty clear buy signal on Bitcoin. So, unfortunately, it's just a choppy, boring summer, and it's a good time to look at your favorite assets. The one thing that and this is a slideshow that I'm presenting at our offsite next week, so apologize for the presentation format. But if we look at kind of past cycles, this smaller chart here, and I could blow it up. Bear with me. We are this black line right here. So this is previous cycles. You've seen, 2011. I'd argue these earlier cycles were not really analogous to what we're seeing today. But if you look at, 2018 cycle, 2015 cycle, we're right on track for the previous cycles. And the back half of the year for each of these has been fairly parabolic. This is an axis that says, how many multiples you get from the start of the cycle. So this is, a 20x multiple by May of 2025 for both of the previous cycles, if we're following the same sort of trend that you've seen in the past. So all this to say, I think we just got to kind of hold on, be a little bit patient. The thing that is a bit different than previous cycles, I'm going to blow this chart up here.
This one, altcoins.
Yeah. Is it altcoin season again? Right? Do we want to rotate into altcoins? This is the Bitcoin dominance chart. So what percentage? So obviously, in 2017, it was basically 100%, but you saw this shoot way down in 2018 to 40%. So this is how many altcoins are, dominating sort of the market cap of crypto. You saw the same thing in 2021. It fell off from whatever, almost 80% down to 40%. We have not seen that this cycle, and this has been in really year one or year two of those rallies. So the open question is, are we waiting for that altcoin season, or is it not going to happen the same way kind of this cycle? The interesting thing this cycle is you have a larger amount of tokens and a larger dispersion of these assets. So in 2021, we had 400,000 coins, which is still a shit ton. This time around, we have almost 4 million and are making, 50K plus tokens a day. A lot of that is meme coins, of course. But a lot of that is legitimate projects that you've seen from previous cycles that have just delayed their token launches because of FTX Saga, weren't ready to launch in 2021. And then all of a sudden this like bull market comes out of nowhere and they're like, oh God, we gotta launch. So, will we see the same altcoin season? I'm skeptical. I think asset selection this cycle is actually going to be immensely important, and spray and pray is just not going to have the same effectiveness as it did in the past.
So you think that a lot of these alts don't move because there's just not enough money with that quantity of tokens?
There is a couple $1 billion in aggregate supply coming in the back half of the year, not only through token unlocks, but also through token generation events. So who is the net new capital who is purchasing those tokens? I'm not sure, because a lot of those things are on chain. They're mostly not listed on major exchanges, and buyers of crypto today, probably if they want to be crypto curious, are just going to buy the Bitcoin or ETH ETF. So I think asset selection at the long tail of altcoins, anything out of the top 30 is going to be immensely important going forward. And that has implications obviously for liquid, but also for venture too. I don't think you could just like say, hey, I'm going to write checks to, equal weight in each one of these, protocols and hopefully one hits. Like, I think it's really paramount, like actually having a thesis and understanding like, hey, here's the sectors that I like going forward. And here's why, because you need capital to be interested in this stuff, and you need them to actually go and facilitate a purchase on chain. So it's a bit of a tricky environment.
No more spray and pray, which has been the really pinnacle of strategy for crypto VCs and investors. Like you said, put 10 grand if you can, and as a VC into 50 pre-sales, and one of them pulls a 2000x and whatever. Who cares?
Exactly.
Can't do that anymore.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to work as well as it did in previous cycles. And like, if you look at just the price appreciation of crypto as we mature as an asset class, I mean, you saw the first run Bitcoin did 1000x, and then the next cycle it did, 500x. The next cycle it did 50x. Yeah. So now we do 3, 4, whatever. I mean, you can't expect the long tail, even if you just assume some sort of beta, to have that same asymmetric upside that you did in the past.
But there would be an argument that is basically not valid because of the ETF, but there would be an argument that if the expectation is that Bitcoin gains will be less each time, then the community might be more likely to pour into altcoins to search for those higher gains. But the problem is there's too many of them.
There's too many of them. So there's the dispersion of assets is way too wide. So, and I don't think there's enough folks who are actually searching those out. It's basically like the hot ball of crypto money that's been moving around. And if you just, we need more net new people to come in on chain. So what does that? Like, great, Base is getting 50K plus users a day. Solana is helping onboard people through Saga and other things. I just talked to Anatoly the other day. They're launching the Saga 2 Q2 25, and hopefully we'll have a demo at Breakpoint, which will be cool. But that's going to onboard another, 500K plus people. But these are like, we need people on chain to actually purchase all these like other things or have ways to do it, which is the challenge.
Yeah, it's a huge challenge. Do you think that Polymarket could have a meaningful effect on that? I mean, I hear it now literally on every podcast. I'm seeing it referenced on the news, which is obviously crypto native. I mean, some would argue that Polymarket's just a betting site, right? On real world events, and you can basically bet on anything, and you happen to use crypto to make those bets. But if we consider that a crypto native site, I mean, and it goes that wildly viral, could that be the thing that brings all these people on chain? I mean, if you look, I think Vitalik even tweeted about it. He's like, it's not easy to fund Polymarket still. You have to like go on a Polygon wallet or something. I mean, it's not easy.
Yeah, it's a bit trickier than it should be, but it abstracts away a lot of the crypto pieces that we sort of fumble around with, and the numbers have borne it out. So I think there's been 5,000 daily active users. They did 50 million in aggregate trading volume on Polymarket, so that's pretty sizable, and that's ticked up pretty precipitously since. And Polymarket's been around for like 3 years, so this isn't
Politics
just a new
set it
thing.
off, right? Yeah,
For
yeah,
sure, for sure. So I mean, that's like so. I guess it's more broadly like what is actually getting adoption today. So Polymarket is one thing that's actually getting adoption today. I think the biggest use case is still stable coins. How boring that is, right? But billions of dollars transferred every day, censorship resistant, all the things around that are really attractive. Reduction in fees, blah, blah, blah. That's still a real use case. Meme coins, while kind of a joke, have actually attracted a ton of volume. Whether they've brought in net new users to the space,
yeah, that's the
I'm not
question.
sure. But $50 million a day on Solana in terms of aggregate fees just generated from stablecoin or from meme coins, the last few weeks.
50 million a day.
50 million a day, which is crazy. I mean, it's just like, and this is all speculation, right? So is that capital sticky? Maybe, maybe not. But for me, and I've talked about it many times on the show, is DPIN is really the thing that I think provides clear token incentives to both sides of the equation, has clear product market fit, solves the cold start problem, like does everything you want in a token. And you've seen success from, Helium has 100,000 plus users using their $20 a month plan. Hive mappers map 21% of the globe with 150,000 users. Demo, which is like an insurance, kind of like product, like a progressive kind of product in your car, is 50,000 drivers. IONET, decentralized compute, is making 500K a day. So like all of these protocols in DeepIn, I think are real world use cases, and I think we're just going to continue to see that in the next cycle. And there's like more esoteric stuff like energy and whatever, that are going to get interest, but. I think that's a vertical that's clearly growing, and I think is not just like, oh, hype on crypto Twitter, just gonna fizzle out. I think there's real adoption there.
Yeah. Do you think that we see any of the sort of narratives from previous cycles that were supposed to happen then happen now? Metaverse, do NFTs pop again? Or were those kind of, it happened, didn't work, and we move on? Seems like DPIN and RWA are the things now, right? We had the news, I think yesterday, Goldman is going to offer 3 tokenized products this year, Goldman Sachs, right? So, I mean, that's clearly happening to some degree. How big they'll get, I have no idea.
I think they happen probably in a different way. So like one thing that's been getting a ton of adoption recently is Telegram's, well, I don't know if it's not directly affiliated. They're endorsing now the Ton chain. They have 500 or 900,000 monthly active users on Telegram that they have access to. The TVL there is now almost $1 billion. And a lot of that is in these silly little like tapping games, right? Like Notcoin, Hamster Combat. And there's other mini apps that are being built that I think have like almost like WeChat. Like we don't see it much in America, but in WeChat in China, they have all these built-in apps that you play and are making, real revenue. I think there's probably a lot of traction there, and it's going to where the user is rather than saying like, hey, come play this like silly thing on chain, and experience all these frictions. I think that we see the instantiation of a lot of those previous trends there. In terms of NFTs, dude, I don't know. I still have the ape that I bought. It's around break even price. I'm just playing it as a leverage beta play. I think it consolidates into a few.
They were like 8.5 and ETH was down, but I had this line in the sand. I drew last cycle 25 grand. I think they got down to like 27. And I said last time it was the peak, and I was on a Twitter Spaces, and I was like, if apes, there were 300,000 or 250 was the floor. I was like, if they go to 25 grand, when they go to 25 grand, I think I said I'll buy one. Glad they didn't. I don't know.
Yeah,
you got to beat ETH, right? You got to beat ETH. You don't
Sure.
just have to buy it for 25 grand.
Exactly. So I don't know if we see a comeback arc with NFTs and stuff. I still think it's a bit early for all the things people wanted to use NFTs for, like, oh, we're gonna put my deed to my house or mortgage and as an NFT, like movie tickets are gonna be NFTs, like plane tickets, whatever. Like, I think it's probably a next cycle thing as we get more users on chain. But PFPs. Ooh, I don't know, man. Tough space to be in right now.
I have my doubts. I think punks will always hold their value. Apes have a fighting chance, and maybe one or two others. The rest of them are dead and dusted. All right, guys. Everybody can follow him at Dunleavy89. I know you got another commitment in 1 minute, so I'm going to let Tom go. Thank you, man. I always appreciate your insight. Have a good one.
Of course, good to be here. Good to
see you in Nashville.
Again. And
see you in Nashville.
Man, I don't know. I looked at Nashville, and actually, kind of what you were talking about earlier. I looked at the agenda for the conference, and it was literally nothing I would be remotely interested in. So, and not that you see many.
Don't want to hear 70 hours of Bitcoin digital gold.
Yeah, I would encourage people to take a look at the agenda and try not to laugh. It's like ridiculous.
I go to the conferences, but I don't go to the conferences, if that makes any
sense. Yeah, for sure.
Hang out around the conferences. All right, man. Thank you very much. I'll see
you.
All right,
talk soon.
He'll be there.
Bye, guys.
Bye. He's going to be in Nashville. Everybody's going to be in Nashville. So we just had actually kind of some breaking news here. Interestingly, we got MicroStrategy sets 10-for-1 stock split 4 months after Bitcoin peak. So stock up about 5%. This matters because if it's trading at like $1,300 now, your average person has to have $1,300 to buy one share of MicroStrategy. Now to be able to buy a share of MicroStrategy for $130. So I think that this is actually quite bullish for MicroStrategy. Yet another huge move by Sailor, which is pretty sweet. Anyways, guys, that's what Dan's not here. Chris wasn't here yesterday. It's like we don't have any trading to talk about, just fundamentals and stuff. But Bitcoin looking pretty good. I'll show you what I've been showing you guys. We had that bullish divergence, double bullish divergence. That was about as gratuitous of a daily bottom, at least for now, that I could hope for. I tweeted about it. I screamed about it. I yelled about it. People made fun of me. It's fun. But, dude, bullish divergence with oversold RSI is where you want to be. Guys, that's all I got for you today. I will see you on the morrow with Nathaniel Whittemore for the Friday 5. Later.
That's dope.